Welcome to Friday Reads, where I tell you what I'm reading this weekend and review last week's pick. This weekend, I am continuing to read good old American Psycho by Bret, Easton, Ellis. I won't take up any time saying anything about it since it's featured in multiple videos and podcasts recently, but I'm still working through that. And I am also reading Hag-Seed by Margaret Atwood. Hag-Seed is a retelling of The Tempest, and it comes out on Tuesday, October 11th, which is not this coming Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. We got an advanced reader copy off NetGalley, and so I will be reading that this weekend and putting up a review over at GameAndRead.com. So if you like Margaret Atwood, if you're interested in Shakespeare retellings, check that out. It should be up next week. So on to this week's review. Clearly, I am still reading American Psycho, so I won't be reviewing that. But last week, I talked about how I was listening to Bossypants by Tina Fey on audio. Bossypants is her memoir from 2011, I think is when it was published, and it is Tina Fey's kind of journey from adolescence into improv and comedy to SNL to 30 Rock and other stories in between. And overall, I enjoyed it. It was an enjoyable listen for me. I did not love it as much as I loved Yes Please by Amy Poehler. And I think that Amy Poehler's voice engaged me a lot more. Her stories were a little more complex and a little more dynamic. And compared to that audiobook, I just felt like Bossypants was a little flat. I did really love the stories about Tina Fey's adolescence and her time starting out in improv and in comedy. That's the part that I wish there was more of. There was a lot of 30 Rock talk, of course, because when the memoir came out, 30 Rock was an incredibly popular show, and so I'm sure that that factored into its place in the book. But I just wasn't I'm not a huge 30 Rock fan. I mean, I've watched the show. I think it's funny. I like it, but I'm not super interested. I just could have done without that. I did think that Tina Fey had some really interesting thoughts about feminism and women in comedy and in the media. Her section about Sarah Palin and her impersonation of Sarah Palin was really fascinating because it really highlighted this intersection between women and politics and gender and comedy, but also made it clear that all of that is a lot more complex than we want it to be. You know, Sarah Palin seemed to be a pretty polarizing figure when she was part of the campaign trail. But Tina Fey really humanizes her in a lot of ways, and I thought that that was just a really interesting insight into the political comedy crossroads. So while I didn't love Bossypants, I did enjoy it. I am glad that I picked it up. It was great to listen to on audio because Tina Fey reads it, and so you get her voice and her inflection, and that really added to the story, to the memoir, and to the overall work. So Bossypants, Tina Fey, if you like Tina Fey or if you like 30 Rock, definitely pick it up. That's all I have for this week's Friday Reads. Make sure you go over to GameAndRead.com for all of our videos and book reviews and our podcast episodes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Litzy at GameAndRead. You can find my Goodreads, where I post reviews of all the books that I've read, at Goodreads/emerch. And you can listen to the podcast over at GameAndRead.com or on iTunes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.